Hey, it's Dr. Rick here, dropping in on you. Decided to do a live stream on this one. The first several installments on this particular story I did record it at the desk because I just wanted to get a point out. But I'm sitting here now, and as more information comes out, I see more teaching opportunities. I see more opportunities to address something that I think is important, and we need to understand where it comes from. Uh, Last week, the story broke that Boston Celtics coach, who took the team to the finals this past season, was being suspended. And at the time when it first broke, they were estimating at least half the season and maybe the entire season for an inappropriate consensual relationship with um, one of the staffers, as they initially put it. A lot of things happened. The wrong picture broke out about the wrong person, and a bunch of other things happened. But at the end of the day, there was a big issue because of the amount of press coverage it was getting, the amount of media coverage it was getting versus some other things that are going on, like the issue with Brett Favre stealing welfare money in Mississippi, and right there in the NBA, Phoenix Suns owner Robert Sarver having created an entire culture for almost 20 years of racism and misogyny. And it was sort of going under the radar, and the black man was being pushed forward. Um, my initial stand on it hasn't changed much, but I think there are some things that need some clarity. But I want to focus on something that I think is a deeper issue, and we don't want to talk about it. We normally get at odds about it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to tick some people off here, but then if you follow me for any stretch of time, you know I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to disrespect anybody. I'm not here to purposely tear down anybody. I've been very careful about how I approach this, and I hope that Ime Udoka recovers from this. I hope that he has a successful career, and I hope that he learns a lesson from this. I think we need to stop giving people passes, though. And when I say about that, I don't mean I don't think he should get fired for it. But if there's a policy in the place that says it's possible, then that's up to the organization. But I do think that we need to pay close attention to the things that tend to roll underneath the radar while we are focused on what the media tells us is the most important story. While this is definitely something that people who are into celebrity news and into all that stuff is probably worthy to them, there are a lot more things that are happening and going on that have a lot more gravity in the scope of what happens to the masses, which includes us. And those are the things we should be looking at. We should be looking at the politics and what's happening in the political arena right now. We're approaching a midterm season where a lot of games are being played by the Dems. Republicans are being Republicans, and we're caught in the middle and probably going to get crushed once again because we're not paying attention to what's going on. But let's look at what I see as an issue. I said in the beginning that while I definitely don't condone what he did, I think that we need to hold ourselves as men to a high standard. When we find ourselves in positions where we have platforms, where we have exposure, where people can observe us, we have an even greater responsibility to carry ourselves in a certain way. I also said that I am not one, I have never ran my house in a way that says that when you do something, you get to say, well, they're doing it too. Why didn't they get this? Or my friend does it and his mom didn't do that. I don't want to hear any of that. I'm dealing with you based on what you did under the principles, protocols, and value systems that I set in this house. And I'm the same way. I'm not worried about what Brett Favre is getting away from. He's a white man in a white racial caste system. Of course, he's going to get away with a slap on the wrist, where if that'll be a black man, we're talking 30 years, they're going to find a way to prosecute him. We already understand that. Well, then what does that mean? That means as black men, if we're going to operate within the scope of their system and reach high plateaus, and high peaks, then we got to understand that they're looking for a reason to push us off. They're looking for a reason to deal with the fact that we're getting more Black coaches, we're getting more Black quarterbacks, we're getting more. I mean, that's an issue. If you think it's not an issue, it's an issue. So anytime that we can sit up and we can paint you in a negative light, anytime we can sit up and we can put your image out there and say, yeah, you're good at this, but you're horrible in this, and we're going to make it a moral issue and we're going to stretch it out. We're not going to talk about it. The Brett Favre thing. Not that it wasn't talked about. I think that's something else that we need to get through. It was out there. And another thing that we've got to understand is we're in the social media age. So what stories gain traction isn't so much about what the media puts out. The media puts it out there. It's what gets shared the most. So who's sharing it the most? If it's showing up on your timeline, then it's more than likely us, because we tend to hang in enclaves and groups. And so we're doing it to ourselves. So that's the first thing. But I'm here for the learning lesson. And that's why I want to talk to you. But the whole thing is, so I'm going to hold myself and every Black man that I come in contact, and any story about a Black man, I'm going to view it through the lens of accountability. So what he did was wrong, morally wrong, obviously wrong in the way of policy and the organization, but anybody that's been around professional sports will tell you it is not uncommon. It is extremely common. So for it to gain as much attention as it is, and as it has, there has to be some undercurrent or a backstory to it. This isn't just some coach or some player knocking down some chick in the organization. That happens all the time. It happens all the time. Some of these relationships actually end up being marriages, but it happens. Okay. So I told somebody when I first heard he could be suspended for a year. Oh, it's definitely something more than just the violation of a fraternization policy. It's who he messed around with. And so now the story is sort of evolved, and there are at least two women. Now, one woman is the woman who literally made the travel plans, makes his travel plans, and made the travel plans for Nia Long to move from Los Angeles to Boston permanently to be with him. Now, when that move was made, and this is the thing that I'm talking about that I have an issue with. When that move was made, he had known for 2 months that he was under investigation, that they were digging into his behaviors and what he had done. He knew this was going to come out, because when they start, they're going to find it. And he still had this woman who he's having this situation with be the one that moves Nia Long out to Boston. Now, the issue that I'm taking, and the thing that I want to point out here, is the information that's being leaked is that the other person that he's involved with happens to be Miss Lynch, who is the wife of the vice president of finance for the Boston Celtics. So an executive's wife, and we already know the hue. That's that proverbial cookie jar that we can't keep our hands out of, because a long time ago we were told we couldn't have it. And there's this thing, if you can't have it, there must be some value to it beyond what I can have. So I'm going to go get it. And you stick your hand in the cookie jar, and you don't get to play by the same rules. You're in their world. And there's just so many decisions that were made that, dude, what were you thinking? You're having a relationship. The fact that it's consensual isn't the issue. That just says you didn't do anything criminal. The fact that it's inappropriate means that the company has said there should be no fraternization between employees within the organization. And those fraternization rules exist across the board, and they are constantly violated, not just in sports. You can go almost any corporation, I guarantee that somebody's violated. They're in the military, and they are being violated in the military. That's common practice. So for it to be a big issue, there's something else outside of the fraternization, violation of the fraternization problem. I can tell you what it is. You mess with that white man's wife, and he happens to have pull in the organization. He's a VP in the organization. You mess with his wife. So tell me, it's no way you take a coach that just took you to the finals and say you're going to sit down for the next year when your best chance to go back is now. unless there's some really heavy stuff going on. Now, that's that thing, is what are you thinking as a man to stick your hand in the cookie jar, knowing that you could not only lose your hand, you could lose your complete arm, because you could have not only lost your job and your career, it's possible you could lose your woman, which is a part of your family. Even though you're not married, that's a whole nother thing I'm not going to get into now. That's between them. But that's your family. Y'all are living together. Y'all are building something together. You have given her your word that you're going to be with her and only her, to the point she's packed up her whole life and moved out here with you. And everybody's saying, well, that's their personal business. No, it's their personal business when it's in their personal space. It's their personal business when you're living a life where nobody knows anything that's going on in your home. Once you sit up and you're out there and you are now a person who is exposed to the public, that is a responsibility to carry yourself in a way that understands the gravity of your behavior. Because now you're not just impacting your home. Here's the thing, whether we want to admit it or not, media, celebrity, and money has a massive impact on the minds and the attention of our youth. And he represented a very powerful idea that I don't necessarily have to be XYZ to get money. I don't have to be a dope dealer. I don't have to be a rapper or whatever. I can literally do this. I can literally be in an area that was once almost predominantly built with white men. I can do this, and I can do it at a high level. He was a representation of an idea that could have been sculpted and made into something so that we can literally sculpt the minds and socialize the minds of young Black males to think beyond what they're being shown in movie and music and everything else. He's that person, whether he asked for it or not. He's that person. When someone can observe you, you have a responsibility of what they are observing. You have a responsibility for managing that. You got a responsibility of determining what you want to present to the world when the world has access to you. You give up that right of privacy when you place yourself in a public eye. It just simply is the rule. You don't get to say that's my business. No. It's your business if you keep it your business. Now, there are some people who have been very good at pretty much keeping their businesses. Samuel L. Jackson and his wife seem to have done a pretty good job. Denzel Washington, his wife, seemed to have done a pretty good job. And I'm just coming off the top of my head. LeBron James and his wife, there are some rumors that have been trying to creep out as of late, but for the most part, you haven't heard a whole lot about this kid. He's been in the league for 20 years. There's some things that are trying to creep out now. Some people are trying to drop some stuff, but for the most part, you haven't been able to get into their personal life. And there's a way to do that. And if you do that, but when you sit up and you put it out there like that, you're asking people. Like I said, Kobe invited the world in when he decided to go to that hotel in Denver. Am I sit up and crucifying people for making bad choices? No, I made bad choices. What I'm saying is, when I made bad choices, I was ready to accept the consequences of the choices I made because I made the choice. I don't get to make the choice and then sit up and say, well, what about them? I would have got my ass whooped growing up with that. On top of the ass whooping I'm already getting. The moment I sit up and say, but they. So now, and Kobe did that, and I am the hugest Kobe fan, my favorite player, but that was weak. Shaq been doing it. No. But you got caught doing it. Let's talk about it. And again, I have a major problem with not just Black men, with people, period, sitting up justifying wrong by saying it's always been done, that other people are doing it. What about him? What about her? Let me tell you something. In the work that I do, I deal with people who have been traumatized by people who are doing stuff that have always been done. When you do something that brings harm to another person, there's a level of responsibility that comes with that. Am I saying crucify you, throw it to your woods? If I'm sitting up acting like this dude is the worst person in the world? No, he did some stupid stuff. And he's going to ultimately have to deal with it. Hopefully, his life pulls back together rather quickly. Fortunately, he didn't lose his job. He just got suspended, or at least that's where it's at right now, a 1-year suspension. Uh, how he manages that, and I'm pretty sure he's already got a PR team. The team is probably already giving him some PR instruction, because even though they're the ones suspending him, they're looking at their long-term connection and relationship with him. They did what they felt they had to, and obviously, if you've got a situation and a dynamic going, and from what I'm hearing, the entire truth hasn't come out yet. There's still some more ugly stuff that's going to come out. This wasn't just a simple, hey, you got caught cheating, or you got caught messing around with somebody at the job. There's a lot of stuff that's starting to fall out, and a lot of people are whispering, and there's some stuff out there that I can't verify, but I'm almost certain it's true to some extent. But I can tell you that he stuck his hand in that proverbial cookie jar. It's the big issue from what I can see now. What else is going to come out later will come out later, and it's going to have to be dealt with. What I want to see is us have a standard. Us have a standard. We tend to live vicariously through celebrities, through people who are successful, through people who have done things that put them in the spotlight. And we tend to give passes to them. We gave passes to R. Kelly for years because he was a musical genius. We give passes to other people because of what they're doing. We talk about this whole thing. My thing is, if you're doing something that violates the life and the sanctity and the space and the peace and the safety of another person, you need to be held accountable for that. At whatever level society says you need to be held accountable for it. I'm not one for throwing people's lives away. I'm big on second chances. Thank God I've had more than a second chance in life. But what I'm saying is, I had to grow up. I had to be willing to accept responsibility for what it is that I done and what I do. And every day I make choices based on the understanding that there's going to be a ripple effect in life throughout the universe based off of every choice I make. I'm either sending out good or I'm sending out bad. And I need to be responsible for the bad I'm sending out. So then my choice is not to send out bad, not to purposefully harm anyone, not to respond. Even when I feel wronged, there's a way to respond. Why? Because that negative energy I want to emit doesn't really bring me back anything but a good feeling of I got even. It doesn't actually produce anything but negativity. Negativity never produces positivity, except when you dealing with you know what I'm saying, magnets. They attract on opposites. But other than that, when you send out negative, you get negative. And so what am I getting at here? Let's stop making excuses for men who definitely have the capacity to do better. On the flip side, let's stop crucifying and canceling every damn body. And I think that we have been literally programmed to be on extremes. Either I hate him and I'm going to castrate him and I'm going to cancel him, or man, he just being a man, give him a break. How about let's hold him accountable? Let's show him some grace. Let's step back and see how he responds to it and determine whether or not this is going to be an ongoing pattern, so we know where to put him in our scope of things. But let's be, as men who and women, who will be observed by more than just those in our inner circle, because we have in some way created platforms for ourselves. Let us be aware of our responsibility to carry ourselves as such, that we represent Black manhood, Black womanhood, the Black family, in a way that when we're observed, it doesn't give the struggle a black eye. It doesn't give Black men a black eye. Black men, we're constantly talking about how we're derided by Black women. And yet we want to give passes to Black men who are harming Black women. And we don't understand why they don't trust us, why they're at odds, Black women. You got to also be aware of how you move and how you operate. Some of the things you're doing, there's some shady stuff I'm observing. Everybody's getting down. We are really in a place of selfishness. We only want to do what we want to do. It only matters if I want to do it. If I want to do it, I'm going to find some kind of way to justify it. Forget how it's going to play out in the long term. I just want what I want, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it. Black men, Black women, that can't work. We are by nature social creatures. What does that mean? That we are designed in nature as mammals to function in an enclave, in a social makeup to where we work together. We were not meant to be independent and individualized in our movements, our thoughts, our behaviors, and in that way. What will happen is we will destroy ourselves as a collective. And we will not have a place where we can move and be safe in our own spaces because we're still not accepted by the mainstream social. We'll tolerate it, we'll dealt with, but the moment that we become powerless, but because we have destroyed ourselves from within, they will finish the job. Trust me. We have let them destroy the family. And we consistently deride the family. We deride marriage. We deride collectability. We sit up and act like we can literally exist without one another, and we can't. It's naturally impossible. It's financially unlikely. And we yet still buy into the BS American dream, do as you please, it's your world thing, and we're losing sight of the bigger picture. We can't stop grabbing shit thinking that it's going to fix us. And I don't care how much shit you grab. If you haven't done the work on the inside, it's not going to matter. People out here hurting people because they're still hurt. People out here hurting people because they haven't dealt with the pain. And you can't sit up and look at somebody's pain being caused by another person and say, hey, everybody's done that for years, unless you've been hurt. Nobody that hasn't is looking up saying it's okay to hurt somebody. Everybody does it. If you're thinking that way, I guarantee you I can sit down with you, and within a few sessions, I'm going to find out why you're doing it. And it's because you've been hurt. We're going to have to deal with that. I have wrote books on multigenerational transmission of trauma. I've wrote books and papers on epigenetics. Let me tell you something. We're passing this shit down, and we're doing it in multiple ways. And we found a way now to justify it. We found a way to justify it. For the ones that are sitting up saying people been cheating since time began, yes. And if you follow it, civilizations have fallen because of cheating. Literal nations have been destroyed because of cheating. It doesn't come without a negative consequence. You don't do it and it's just, hey, this is what we do and everybody's good. No, anytime someone is hurt by someone else, there's a ripple effect in the universe. And it's going to travel and it's going to touch. If you're not careful, it will move not only through the universe in time, it will move through the universe in lineage down generations. And it will literally touch people that haven't even been thought of yet because you thought it was okay because that's what people have been doing. I'm telling you what I know. It's never okay to hurt anybody. I don't give a damn how many people did it. Now, do you go off and you destroy a person because they made a mistake? No, but you need to sit up and say, okay, let's check your character. Because to me, that's what cheating is. It's a character flaw. Cheating to me, and this is how I define it, is I tell you it's just me and you. And I am explicit in that. So you clearly understand that what I'm saying is we're in a monogamous relationship. It doesn't have to be marriage. It has to be an agreement where now I'm emotionally invested in something because you told me it was a certain way. And then I decide, without letting you know, that I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do something different than what I told you I was going to do. That's a violation of trust. That's one of the most devastating things a person can experience is betrayal. And to sit up and think that, hey, just because we've been doing it, yeah, I'm telling you, just because grandma put up with it doesn't mean that it wasn't devastating. And just because grandpa got away with it doesn't mean it was cool. Because see, being a person that deals with the fallout of it, I'm telling you it's not. I'm telling you, a lot of our inability to be forwardly mobile is tied to the trauma that we've experienced in our family households because we don't know how to love right. See, we don't want to hear that. That's not what we want to hear. We don't want to hear that. We want to be told whatever you want to do, just go out and do it. You can do it, whatever you want to do. We want to be able to feel and do what we want to without any idea of compromise, of consequence. That's not how this works. Not if we're talking about building. What is this darn thing flying around, getting on my nerves? And it's still, I'm going to get it eventually. God dog, that drives me nuts. But anyway, we are going to have to understand something here. Number one, we don't throw our own away if at all possible. I'm not about sitting up canceling everybody, throwing everybody away. I'm about second chances, but chances also have to be earned. You say, okay, I see what you did. You're going to have to deal with the consequences. Same thing I do with my kids. Same thing my grandfather did with me. Look, you did this. You're going to deal with the consequences. But we're not going to be talking about this. And that is all, we're not going to be talking about this 6 years from now, but we're going to deal with it now. We're going to deal with it now. And we are going to see what you do after this. Is this something we're going to have a problem with? Or did you learn your lesson? And a lot of times that love, that grace, but that sternness is what's necessary. That's got to be a combination. Number one, I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm not going to crucify you. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I'm not going to leave you bleeding on the street in your misery. I'm going to sit up and come up and say, hey, that shit was wrong. But hey, here, this is what we're going to do about it. You're going to have to go sit down and you're going to deal with this. Whatever this is, the consequences of it, you're going to deal with it, but I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to be there with you. Now, you determine what you're going to do with your life after this by how you behave from this point forward. Nobody is perfect. Nobody has walked through this life and done nothing wrong. Everybody has some stuff that they're not proud of. The thing is, did you make it a habit or did you learn from it? Did you grow from it? Did you become better? Did it make you more caring? Did it give you a more empathetic spirit towards others to where you can now feel when other people are having pain? Because I guarantee you, pain is going to visit you when you send out pain. The thing is, that we have to get some responsibility. And there were just certain things that I set up and I saw, and I've been seeing that absolutely is unacceptable. It just doesn't seem like you're thinking when you do some of this stuff. And there comes a point in time where you got to understand that the life that I now live does not afford me privacy. It does not afford me the space to creep. People see me and recognize me, and everybody sees a situation. If I'm messing with someone, it's not about the relationship only. It's about leverage. I'm getting with him now because I want to get with him. He looking kind of sexy over there. He looking like this. He the hot number right now. He's one of the top coaches. I'm gonna go get that. But at the same time, Man, when he finally slip up, I'm gonna get paid too. You got to understand, once you get into a certain space, you don't get to play them games that everybody been playing anyway. It's too much to lose. You gotta be smarter. And I personally, and this is me personally, and with the work I do with young Black boys, with Black Men Lead, and other things that I do in mentoring and in counseling and everything else that I do, this is something I portray to them. But my thing is, I want a standard where we want to be better than our opposition. I don't want to be, well, I should be able to get away with this because Brett Favre isn't getting this much flack, or Robert. I don't want to be judged by someone who is behaving beneath what they could be doing. I want to be held accountable and responsible for being the best version of myself. I want to be held accountable for living life at a level that when my children and grandchildren and great grandchildren look at me, they can sit up and say, that's a man. See, the thing is, my great grandfather, who was my adopted father, had a second grade education, but he was a man. The way he treated my grandmother showed me what a man does. The way he stood up and got up and did what he had to do every day showed me what a man was. The way he stood up and was protective and, I mean, literally encapsulated that house with his priesthood and his prayers showed me what a man is. That's the thing I'm striving for. That woman in that house showed me and taught me how to love children that weren't hers. And she taught me and told me that if you meet a woman and she has kids, if you can't love the kids as your own, you don't need the woman. And I came in and I loved children that weren't mine. And I never called them step. I never said her children. They are mine. Why? Because that's the standard I was rid of. Some men don't see that. Some men, I ain't raising no one else's children. That's a problem in a situation where most women are living single as single mothers. You know, we passed the point where we can sit up and say, I'm going to create my own lineage in my own home. We got past that point. That point is not there. For the next generation, we can start teaching and creep, but we're going to have a loving environment where there's masculine energy in the home, where there is feminine energy in the home, where that masculine energy and feminine energy syncs together to create a synergy and a force in which our children can grow up and understand who they are. Because right now we don't even have an identity. We're in an identity crisis. That's why our children can be told who they are. That's why our children can sit up and chase images on Instagram and TikTok, because they don't know who they are, because we haven't created an environment to empower them. Then they get to see somebody successful, but the behavior that they're exhibiting isn't the behavior that's conducive to long-term growth in community and empowerment. It's destructive. It is the truth. It's what it is. I can't condone it. Again, I'm not crucifying dude. I'm saying I can't condone the behavior. I'm not going to point to what someone else did. I'm not going to point to what's always happened. I'm going to say that's not the behavior that I would want to exude as a man. So it's not going to be something I'm going to condone in a man. At the same time, I wish him the best. I hope he comes back. I hope he gets it together. I hope that he proves that there's life after mistakes, because there is. But I'm not going to sit up and say, hey, all things good. You mean, do your thing. No, we've been doing that too long. Hey, man, do your thing. I can't tell you how many old dudes when I was young coming up came and whispered in my ear, I always keep a spare in the trunk, bro. Young buck. I always keep a spare in the trunk. That was the player code, the pimp code, all these things that taught us how to mistreat our women and not love our women. And women, you've been told, go get the bag. Don't do this. Don't get this, get this. You're not even looking for somebody that you can sink into. You're looking for somebody that checks them boxes. And then when you get them, you find out that they can't be what you need them to be because you were looking for the wrong thing, because you got gassed up about what life was about. And we're all dealing with disappointments now because we went out looking for the wrong thing. Find somebody who loves you enough to be your support, to be somebody who speaks power into your life, to be somebody who's saying, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to go hard in the paint every day to be everything I can for you. And I need you to do the same for me. If we can do that, we can build something special. That's what we need. Everybody's trying to play everybody. Everybody's trying to get everybody. Everybody's trying to control everybody. Everybody's trying to make sure they're not the one getting hurt. So I'll hurt anybody I have to just to keep me from being hurt. And don't realize you're already hurt. We have a problem. And if we don't do something about this problem, the consequences are going to be so dire. I'm wishing nothing but the best for that family. I'm wishing healing for the entire family. I'm wishing healing for anybody else that is hurt that we don't know about. And I'm wishing for a story of redemption. I would love to see a year or two from now, the story of redemption, how everything healed and it came together and he stood up and he was everything he needed to be after the mistake, because we're going to make them. On that note, look, I'm going to get off, but I had to touch it and I wanted to do it in a live session in case anybody wanted to weigh in. For those of you who did drop in, thank you. But there's so many different things involved in this. We need to keep our hands out of the cookie jar because the cookie ain't that good in the first place. On that note, look, I am going to get out of here. Don't forget to support the work we do at the Odyssey Project. The links are in the description box. Cash App account handle is in the description box. Show some love for the work we have been doing for more than 2.5 decades. On that note, I am out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your day.